Okay, we're live. This is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. This is our Sunday edition. And I'm on with I'm attorney Vince Davis, and I'm on with a very special guest, Elliot Oakes. Elliot, did I pronounce that right?
You most certainly did.
All right. So, Elliot, you and I have never met, but how are you associated with a CPS?
Reader's Digest version is on June 19th. We have three children, all at the ages of 5, 3, and 1.5. And they were taken away from my wife and I. That's how this whole ball got started.
They were taken away from your wife and you. So I'm looking at you thinking, okay, well, I don't know this guy, but why in the world would they be taking your children away from you and your wife?
What happened is that I'm a truck driver and I'm on the road a lot. So I'm not home that frequently. And my wife, she was aware that our middle child, who's 3 years old, he has a lot of problems. I wouldn't say he's a special needs child per se, but he does have difficulty. For instance, as I said, he's 3 years old, but he's still not walking. He still doesn't talk. You're lucky to get maybe 2, maybe 3 words out of him. And his skin is very sensitive to where if he would have, not to be graphic, but a blowout, he would get a real bad rash or a real bad breakout. And we would always try to get ointments, or I shouldn't say we, my wife, because I'm not at home. That's my wife is pretty much the primary taker of our children, while I'm out on the road being the breadwinner. So that said, she was trying her best to stay on top of our middle child's needs, especially when it came to him having the runs, or when he would have diarrhea, his skin would get really bad. And we have him in physical therapy to try to get him to walk, to try to get him to get better. So those two things collided on one of his physical therapies that occurred in May. She got him all dressed, ready to go. And when he was my wife's biological father, his wife, she would always take our middle child to his physical therapy appointments. That way, my wife could stay home and take care of the other 2 kids. So she's not like hustling and bustling all 3 kids for just one child's physical therapy appointment. So when in the middle, or I would say in the very early of the physical therapy, he was acting up, crying like something was really wrong. So she's like, well, maybe he needs his diaper changed. And sure enough, he had such a bad blowout that he had open sores. And the physical therapist comes in to see her changing the diaper and sees the open sores. And she's like, oh my God, this is horrible. And you need to take him immediately to the emergency room. And we can no longer have physical therapy. You need to take him immediately. So I'm taking him to the hospital. Of course, that's when then CPS gets involved. And then when they look at our middle child's history records, that it's literally this thick of medical records because of all the issues we've had, they're like, oh, well, what else is going on? And so then they opened up a full-blown investigation.
Well, do me a favor. How long have the kids been taken away from you?
Since June 19th.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about your case. But one of the things that people have been asking me on these live streams is to find out something about you, about the parent. People are usually interested in knowing your background, who you are, what you do, all that type of stuff. So first, tell us what state are you in?
Ohio,
Okay.
in the Canton area.
Okay.
By the Football Hall of Fame. That's what a lot of people know, the Football Hall of Fame. We're not too far away from there.
Okay. So, Elliot, I'm looking at you thinking, you're probably one of the last people that I would have imagined would have lost their kids. You're clean cut. You sound educated and intelligent. You don't sound like you're on drugs or intoxicated in any way. Tell us who Elliot is.
Who I am is I'm 43 years old. This is my second marriage, and My wife and we've been together for almost 10 years. And, we sort of did things the right way. We got married, then moved into a place together, and then we had our first child. And, we're both religious people. We both believe in God, and we believe that children are a blessing. And we wanted to have at least 3 kids. So, we, did everything we could, sometimes getting science involved, so we can have the other 2. And my background is I've been driving semi truck for almost 20 years now. A little bit myself is like I see myself as a Christian, religious man, try to walk in the path of the Lord. I don't really drink alcohol. Don't Never done drugs in my entire life. Never even smoked one cigarette in my entire life. Always been clean cut, above board, because I think you should be like I always believe that you should be an ambassador, like to to your family, and bring honor to your family, and you should never do anything to sort of slight or give your family or your last name a bad reputation or name. So I've always tried to live my life upon par. I sort of try to have good morals and strong morals, and that seems to really clash with child protection services, to where they see me as a sort of a moral person, and they don't like that. And they literally, at one point, the caseworker and we were going back and forth, and she was trying to get me to, the best way I can put it is to not stand up for what I believe in, not to stand up for my faith. And she literally threatened to take away my children to where I could even see them at all. And I'm like, I said, do you hear yourself talking? You're trying to punish me for me having a certain moral and belief system, but really who you're hurting is my children. Because my daughter, who is 5 years old, me being on the truck and I'm only home on the weekends, she literally counts down the days till she can be with her father, till she can have quote unquote daddy daughter day. That's her most exciting day of the week, is daddy daughter day. And I said, for you to threaten to take away my visitation with my children, I said, you would be most damaging the most innocent, which would be my daughter. And I said, how can you look at me in the eyes and tell me that by trying to put me in my place and try to tell me, well, this is how the way things are, this is the way things work. What you should be saying is, what can we do to ensure that we're doing the best for our children, best for your children? You're supposed to be looking at what is the best thing for the children, and how can we get these parents reunited with the children? And I'm not hearing any of that from you. All I'm hearing from you is, you better do this, or I'm not liking this, so I'm going to do this in retaliation. And it's been a real testament to, like, do most people cower and just say, okay, I'll do whatever you want? Or do you stand on your 2 feet? And it's like, no, I don't care how big you are or how powerful you are. I'm going to stand for what I believe in and for what I is right. And I'm not going to take into effect how powerful or how big you are. I want to look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day, knowing that I am acting in a correct and positive manner and way.
How has the CPS case affected your life?
Greatly. In the very beginning, let's just say it was a whirlwind and everything went sideways. Like, I have a good paying job. I feel blessed to have the job that I do. And right away, child services, well, the reason why we took away the kids, because we feel that your wife just, the best way they can put it is, she has dependency issues, where we know she loves the kids, but she's lacking in the skill or the ability to take care of all the kids. So we need you to get a local job. And so I literally said, while I'm sitting down in this meeting with the first caseworker who was responsible for making the decision that their kids would be taken away. So I said, so you're telling me if I find a local job and literally take anywhere between a $15,000 to $25,000 pay cut, that we can get our kids back then? Because then I'm going to be home every day to help take care of the kids. So all of your big concerns of, the kids this and our son not walking and he needs more attention, I can be there for that then. And she goes, oh yeah, if you get a local job, we'll give you your kids back. So I literally, within 2 weeks, took a job that I was taking literally a $25,000 pay cut. And I started immediately. So literally within 2 weeks, I was already had a new job, home every day. And then we had our quote unquote family meeting where everybody is present. And I said, okay, I got the local job. Let's get the kids back. And the look on their face is like, oh no, we can't do that. We're pressing charges against you too for being complicit. And just like talking about your world just being shattered. I'm like, what? It's like, I was told that I was considered a stable parent, that I was considered that if I would be home every day, that would alleviate your biggest concern. And so I did all of that. I literally changed my life and changed my career so we can get our kids back. And it's like, oh no, we see you as complicit in this whole matter. So now we're going to press charges against you. So now we're having charges of neglect, abuse, and dependency, not only against your wife, but you as well, because you were complicit in the matter. And talking about like earth shattering, like I couldn't believe how they could say that or how they could even think that. And I'm like, okay, it looks like we got a lawyer up. So, my wife and I, we each got ourselves lawyers because we thought if we show a big presence, not just one lawyer, but each of us has a lawyer representing each of us, we would send a very clear message that we're taking this seriously, that we mean business, that we're going to do everything we can and then some to get our kids back. And right now, our experience is no matter what we're doing or what we're trying, it's like I was just telling my wife like 2 weeks ago, it's like, you know what? I could become Gandhi and say all the right things and do all the right things. And that means nothing to them. They're not going to change things. They're not, you know what? We're going to speed up this process. We're going to, rather than waiting for this benchmark to occur, we see that you're doing such a fantastic job and doing more than what we asked for. We're going to loosen the reins a little bit and let you do unsupervised visits. It's like they're not even doing that. It's like, and when we had our major court hearing that was literally 7 hours long, we thought we put a great presentation to where there's no abuse, there's no neglect, but we may admit to dependency because of our middle child and how many, we admit that, yeah, he's not walking, he's barely talking, and yeah, he has issues with the diaper. But, it's like when he has a skin condition, you can only do so much, but maybe we can find a way to do more, and we're willing to take classes or do whatever it takes so we can be better informed and have more knowledge to better approach our issues and problems so that our kids can have, can have a better environment or better whatever they want, whatever they're accusing there is a lack of. And what struck me the most, or like really flabbergasted me, and you said this in quite a few of your shows, and you have other guests, like he committed perjury. It's like he never even talked to the therapist, but this agent saying that they talked to the therapist, and the therapist is like, no. And it's like the judge doesn't even listen to that. And during the 7 hours of testimony, literally the caseworker on trial not only committed perjury once, but 2 times. And I wasn't planning on going on the stand at all. I thought our lawyers were doing a decent job. But when they were literally outright lying, and these lies were significant to make it look like we're the worst human beings on this face of the earth. That's why the kids were taken away. These are horrible human beings. That's why we acted this way. And I couldn't stand for that. So I said to my lawyer, it's like, put me on the stand. I said, I need to set the record straight. I need to make very clear that what they're saying is furthest from the truth. So I took the stand and I literally said to the judge, I'm like, Your Honor, they're accusing my wife of negligence and abuse because these kids weren't being fed as well. And she's saying that all she's doing is for our youngest son, Croy, and our middle child, Caleb, that all they're getting is nutritional drinks all the time, that she's not cooking meals or making any meals or preparing any food. She's just giving them neutral shakes, and that's it. And I said, Your Honor, I literally could put on my phone and go into my checking account. And for the past year, I can literally show you my wife going out to eat every single day. Because, yes, my wife does not cook. She's never been a cook, but I'm not going to hold that against her. Not every woman has to cook. She just has to put forth, food on the table. So she would go out and get food and bring it home. And literally, it's showing a charge every single day for over a year. And it's like we averaged over $500 just in takeout food alone. And I said, how is that negligent? How is that abuse? I can literally prove and show that this caseworker literally at best has misspoke on the stand. There is no way that my wife is giving these kids neutral shakes. Yeah, she gives them neutral shakes, but as a bedtime to hold them over in the night, not during the day or morning. She cooks some she makes breakfast like pancakes, waffles. That's easy cheesy. Anybody can do that. And then for lunch/dinner, she goes out and gets food. And then she gives them a nice shake for like the sort of like a dessert, lay them down, give them the bottle, and they go to bed. I said, I don't see anything wrong with that. That's not negligence. That's not abuse. I think that's perfectly within the parameters of taking good care of your children nutritional wise. And the judge just was quiet, didn't say a thing. And then I said, and then, Your Honor, the caseworker is literally saying that every time I came home from work, that the kids were always in bed, that she never took the kids out of the crib or out of their bed, that she was an inept parent, that she never took the kids out. I said, again, at best, she misspoke. I said, my complaint, if you want to call it that, is that, yes, my wife's side of the family, they suffer from anxiety. And COVID-19, when that hit, that was extreme anxiety to where my wife didn't want to leave the house, as a lot of Americans. And now you're telling me because my wife suffers from anxiety, and when COVID was at its strongest, and this is when the majority of people were suffering, you now want to say, oh, well, now she's negligent because she wasn't taking her kids out. I said, how many people were adversely affected from COVID-19 where they didn't want to leave the house? And so you got to keep that in retrospect that, yeah, do I wish my wife would have taken out the kids more? Yeah. There's always something you can say, I wish I could have done more of, but that doesn't make you any less of a parent or any lesser of a human being, And I said, Your Honor, it's like my wife at least would take the kids outside, let them play in the backyard, or they would just, relax in the living room and play toys. She wasn't keeping them in their beds. She just wasn't really going out anywhere and doing anything with the children because of that fear, because of that anxiety. I said, that shouldn't be held against her. That shouldn't make her a bad parent. And I said, but yet child services is trying to make you believe that these children deserve to be taken away because of how she handles the kids. And I said, I couldn't disagree more. And again, complete silence. And we thought we did an excellent job in our presentation showing that whatever they tried to say was negligent. And another example, they're like, well, your son Caleb, his medical records is this thick. And we're like, yes, because he's had so many issues. But I said, and then the prosecutor said, well, would you be surprised to know that your wife canceled 30 appointments for your middle child? I'm like, yes and no, to be honest, because if you look at the totality of it, again, this is your biggest complaints of this negligence is during the COVID time. My wife did not feel comfortable bringing or dragging all 3 kids into a doctor's office where people are coughing, hacking, and sick, and then she's going to go back just so my son can get his weight checked. Those 30 cancellations, if you look at every single one of them, all of them were called a wellness check. All the wellness check was just checking his weight, weighing him. And we have that exact same scale / weight at our home. So my wife was thinking in her mind, well, rather than going into the doctor's office, exposing my kids to all these germs and everything, I'll just weigh him here at the house, give him a call and tell him what I weighed him in at, and then they can write that down. No big deal there. So why do I have to take them? So, but hindsight's always 20/20, right? But I said, my biggest complaint is that this pediatrician that you put on the stand, she clearly pointed out that she was concerned because our kids weren't being as seen as often. But when my lawyer pushed her, my kids were still being seen more than what the average child would be seen. For example, those 30 appointments missed, but if you look at the totality, he was still being seen at least once a month. How is being seen once a month by a pediatrician abuse and neglect? I'm not seeing that, but yet that's what they're asserting here. And of course, the most saddening part was the judge did a rubber stamp. He just went along with CPS. He didn't listen to anything we had to say or what the lawyer looks like. How was this? How was that? Look at what they've done. Look at how often he was actually being seen. Look at the treatments he was being received. Could have been more? Yes, but he was still being seen. But nope, judge just rubber stamped it and said, no, I'm just going to agree with CPS because I can. And that was, I would say, the most heart-wrenching, to where if anybody can lose their faith in God, that would have been the moment. Because I thought, praying to God, believing in God's like, we're going to get our kids back after this hearing, because we believe so strongly that their accusations is a stretch, to say the very least. But for that judge just to rubber stamp it like that, that's when I'm now like very cynical of the judicial system. It's like, why can't you listen to the small guy rather than just listening to the man, as they call it?
Well, let me ask you this, Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
Have you and your attorneys talked about appealing this judge?
We did, but the problem is I'm not a rich man. And he said flat out, for the appeal and all said to be done, that's going to be, without even blinking an eye, $8,000. And he goes, and I'm going to be honest with you, this magistrate rubber stamped it. And he goes, seldom in my profession have I seen, if you take it to the appeal, you can invest easily $8,000 into this whole process. And the judge rarely ever goes against the magistrate's order. He goes, it is not a commonplace. And he goes, I'm going to be honest with you. You're probably going to be spending money on something you're going to get the same outcome on. And he goes, what we need to focus on now is, trying to put pressure on child services, because literally child services runs the court. They run the show. What they say goes. So our new focus has to be putting pressure on child services. And he goes, but, we can only do so much. And it's like, the biggest feeling I have right now is powerlessness. It's just like you feel that everything's been taken away from you. And one of the biggest things that we've been fighting for months over with child services is when they took the kids away. I don't know what is in other states, but in the state of Ohio, you have a MyChart system, which is a messaging system and an app that you're able to communicate with doctors with, set up appointments, and have everything in line for your children's doctor's appointments. And that's how you communicate with the doctors. You have any questions, concerns, you can message the doctors directly, or you can read the notes of what the therapist or what the doctors put from that session or meeting that your child had. So it's a nice sort of record keeping. When they took their children away from us, they took all 3 kids off of MyChart. I was like, I'm sorry, don't we still have parental rights? Don't we have every right to still have access to our child's medical records and to see what the doctors are saying and notating? Don't we still have the right to reach out to the doctors and message them? And they're like, oh, we don't know why that was taken away. Literally, that was taken away, I would say, at the very end of June. And we're now in October. And we have still, to this day, have yet to access or have any access to our children on MyChart. And that's just, and another huge frustrating thing, which breaks my wife and I's heart, is that our youngest son, who is a year and a half years old, because of this traumatic experience, not once, not twice, but 3 times has he been admitted to the hospital because he's not eating right anymore. And like I said, my wife's side of the family suffers from anxiety. It's not hard to believe that our youngest boy suffers from anxiety as well. And being ripped away from his mother, he is now just gone worse, 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 to where now we have a health crisis on our hands. To our last appointment, which was just 2 days ago with the GI, they're now talking about he may need major surgery done on his stomach so we can permanently place an NG tube, because the NG tube that's down his nose, he's sometimes vomiting that out because he's still having issues holding down that food. And we're trying to say, when our son was with us in primary of my wife's care, we never had a health issue. Yeah, he followed the curve, not perfectly on the curve, but he was slowly and surely gaining weight over the months till there was never a health concern or a weight concern of our youngest boy. But now that he's been taken away from us, he has been hospitalized 3 times because of malnutrition, because he got an pneumonia. So bad he had ammonia that when he was in the hospital, the doctors had to wear hazmat suits because that's how bad his infection was. And now they're talking about major surgery. And I'm like, can you guys open up your eyes and seeing that taking away, if we're looking at a case by case basis, taking away our youngest son has had detrimental and nothing but negative effects on him. And how can you say you're looking out for the best interests of our children?
Well, Elliot, what I want you to do, you don't have to write this down or take any notes because it's all videotaped. You can rewatch it on one of the social media platforms that we're streaming to right now. And I think there's 8 altogether. You know, in California, and I don't know if it's like this in Ohio, if you want to file an appeal, in most cases, the state will provide you a free appellate attorney. You don't have to hire me to do your case or your private attorney. You can get a free appellate attorney. Okay, we lost Elliot there. Well, good morning, Miss Truen. How are you?
Hi, Mr. Davis. I'm okay.
So let me just finish that thought in case Elliot and his wife are going to look at this. You can apply for a free appellate attorney, and you should definitely do. Oh, here's Elliot.
Yep.
Sorry about that, Elliot.
What did you last hear? I saw myself going still for a moment. I'm like, uh-oh.
No, I was telling you that in most states, you're entitled to a free appellate attorney. I don't know if that's true in Ohio where you live, but it's something that I would look into tomorrow morning, first thing, because the time for you to file this appeal may be ticking away as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be my strong suggestion to look into the free appellate attorney. Based upon what you've told me, your case needs to be appealed.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that you and your wife should consider, and you may want to talk to your attorney about this, is filing a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. In certain CPS cases, people will file these complaints, and the department in D.C. will assign a national team to review and investigate your case. I've seen that investigation result in miraculous reversals of what was done in CPS courts around the country. All right. So
Okay.
there is huge federal oversight because it's all federal money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is not state money that's running these CPS programs. It's federal money from the Department of Health and Human Services. And it's a big money-making operation for the counties and states around the country.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're getting hundreds of millions or billions of dollars from the federal government, believe me, they listen to what the federal government has to say. A case that I'm thinking about that was, complained as a kind of a throwaway strategy resulted in the federal government assigning a civil rights investigator and a nationally known social worker and I think a psychologist, I can't remember, to a case. They reviewed that case with a fine-tooth comb and found outright discrimination by the local social workers and the agency against this family that caused them to lose a child.
Oh, wow.
And they concluded that if the child wasn't returned to the family, and I think the child had already been adopted out,
Mm.
If the child wasn't returned to the family, they were going to lose federal funding. Guess what? Child was returned.
Mm-hmm.
The people that adopted the child, I think, ended up suing the county. And the county, of course, just settled because they'd rather pay them 6 or 7 figures than to lose millions and millions or billions of dollars. It becomes an economic decision.
Right.
So you, I'm just looking at you and I'm thinking, how could this guy have a CPS case? Now, I don't know you, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've never met. But the way you look and sound, I'm thinking, how could he be abusing children? It just doesn't add up. I've been a lawyer over 35 years. And, I have what you might call spider senses, right? Spidey
Mm-hmm.
senses. Now, I'm
Right.
not always right. I'm not always right. I'm wrong a lot. But I do get a sense of people, right? From talking to them and meeting them and listening to their story. And I think that you have been wronged. Now, that's just it's not even a legal opinion. It's just my personal opinion, right? Because I haven't reviewed a document in your case. But if half of what you say is true, oh man, you got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
you need your children back, and you can't take this laying down. Appeal, file the complaint. The other thing you might want to do is not at a local level, but at a state level, you might want to file a complaint with the state agency. All right, because there's definitely something wrong going on.
Yeah, because like I said, my son, like I said, our youngest son right now, he had a GI appointment just 2 days ago, and the doctor's like, well, that NG tube in his nose, it keeps being protruding out when he's vomiting. So we need to do major surgery now to put a permanent NG tube in his stomach. And I'm like, we never had these issues when he was with us.
Oh my
It's
God.
like, and it's like we're literally screaming at the top of our lungs, like, can you at least give our youngest son back? And I guarantee you, as soon as he's back in his mother's arms, he's not going to have this anxiety and he's going to eat much better. It's like, I'm not going to say anything against the foster parent. Bless her heart for taking our child in, but he's missing his mother. He wants to be with his mother and he's not eating right. And he's never eaten right since he's been taken away. And it's like
Elliot,
child services refuses to acknowledge that. They'd
Elliot,
rather pay for the major operation than realize that, man, your youngest son has taken a turn for the worse and has only gotten worse since we've taken him away. They refuse to admit that.
Elliot, are your children with relatives or family friends?
Our oldest daughter, who is 5, and then our middle child, who is 3, he is with my wife's biological father and his wife. And then our youngest, who is a year and a half years old, my wife's biological father was like, oh, we can't handle 3 kids. We can only handle 2. So they took our daughter and our middle-aged son. And so then our youngest was forced to go into foster care.
Okay, so you can find other relatives or family friends.
Oh, that's the problem. We have a relative, my wife's biological mother. She's already had the homestead done. She's already been approved. And she's been approved for over a month and a half. And they're still holding on to our youngest son in foster care. They refuse to release him to my wife's biological mother. They're refusing it. They're not allowed. It's like, but she passed everything. She's authorized. Why can't she have our youngest boy? He's only gone downhill. And they're like, oh, but he has special needs. I'm like, he didn't have special needs before he was taken away. Again, you're proving our point that he's only gotten worse. He's gotten so worse that he's now considered a special needs child. He wasn't a special needs child before he was taken away.
So, Elliot, you see the telephone number in the bottom right-hand corner of the
Yes, I
screen?
do.
Okay. So, write that number down. I want the relative who can't get the child to call me tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm going to see if I can help them in any way.
Yeah, because that's the most frustrating thing. It's like, and when we had our last hearing, which was, it was back in September 12th, I think it was. It's like, my wife's biological mother's been approved for everything. Can we have him up? Oh, no. We feel, and even was it the GLD or that woman who's supposed to have the children's best interest at mind, the legal something to that effect. She's like, oh no, I think him being with the foster family is great.
Because they get funding. They get funding, and also oftentimes they put the kids in an adoptive home if the kids are very young. If they're infants, they put them in an adoptive foster home that wants to adopt.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Elliot.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what you've gone through is very difficult. Would you
Extremely.
be interested to talking to people once a week on one of our platforms, try to help them?
Certainly.
And by I mean our people, I mean the audience, people out there that are
Yes.
going through what
Big
you've
time.
already gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Georgette, could you do me a favor and get in touch with Elliot? And I think Grace has your information.
Yes,
Grace
she
is off.
does.
She's
Mhm.
off today, but Georgette, tell Grace to contact Elliot and see if he can join our team. It's Sunday morning. I was in a really good mood, Elliot, until I heard your story. It just, it really bothers me.
And the
It
sad thing,
bo-
that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more heartening, more information I can give you. You're like, is this really happening? I'm like, yes, because they're that powerful and they think they can get away with it and do what they want to do.
Right. So I'm going to end the show now. Elliot, you're going to have that relative contact me tomorrow at this telephone number.
Absolutely.
Grace will be talking to you about helping other parents. And
Mhm.
look, man, I'm sorry that this has happened to you. Thank you for coming on and sharing. I really appreciate it. I know the people that are watching and that who will watch the recordings are going to be very appreciative to hear your story. And hopefully something you have said or something I've typed in the comments is going to help them with their case.
Right.
Georgette, I want to thank you for joining me on a Sunday morning. It's really appreciated. So goodbye, everyone. Have the rest of the good day. And we'll keep moving tomorrow. Our show is at 7 p.m. We'll see everyone then.
Thank
Goodbye.
you for allowing me to share my story.
Thank you.